Hi, my name's Molly Coupe and I was diagnosed with epilepsy when I was 10 years old.
My name's Andy Davies and I was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia in September 2012 when I was 13.
I was first diagnosed in 2010. It took me quite a long time to understand epilepsy. I'll never not have epilepsy. I think I knew it in the back of my mind, but actually hearing it through me, and I knew my life just wouldn't be the same.
I'd been feeling quite unwell over the summer just before I went back to school in year 9, and so my mum thought that it was probably a good idea to take me to the doctors, and it was then from there that I had a few different blood tests at local GPs before I was eventually taken to Sheffield Children's Hospital and diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia, which is a sort of quite a rare and dangerous form of blood cancer. The way that leukemia affected my life was really difficult. When I had my bone marrow transplant in January 2013, I was actually off school for about 3 months. Not really the kind of thing I want to be doing. I want to be out getting involved with sports like I would be normally, but instead I was sort of in hospital or in home, tucked up in bed, not feeling very well. So it was something that was quite difficult, really.
Yeah, absence seizures is what I was diagnosed with. The electrical pulses in my brain, the gaps are too big for it to jump across. So once I can't jump across, that's when I have an absence, and it's just me literally blanking out for probably between 2 and 5 seconds. So to someone looking at me and I have one, it's basically nothing. People just write it off as like a daydream or a lack of concentration, but it's something I can't help.
So my treatment really began the day after I was first diagnosed. I ended up having 3 courses of very intense chemotherapy, which sort of had some horrible effects. I lost my hair, I was really sick all the time, I had terrible nosebleeds, things like that. But then after that chemotherapy, they gave me a bone marrow transplant, which is basically like a blood transfusion, but just of stem cells rather than of actual blood.
Since I was diagnosed with epilepsy, I've been on constant medication. I started out with a drug called Epilim, but I had to change medication because the dangerous thing about Epilim is that it can increase your chances of having a Down syndrome child. Just absences on its own, just blanking out for a few seconds has drastically changed my life. Like, I'm not allowed to drive because I may blank out for a few seconds. And when I was told that I couldn't drive,
It's alright, take time. If you want a break, just let us know.
sorry.
It's alright. You want a break?
That's okay. I think that was the thing that hit me the hardest, especially when everyone else was learning and talking about the cars they were going to get, and I couldn't. Sorry.
It's alright.
Give a break.
Yeah, cut.
So in terms of long-term effects of having had acute myeloid leukemia, unfortunately the biggest of those is the fact that in the future I am more likely to get any other cancers. As a result of having had the chemotherapy, I've also got sort of slightly reduced lung function, which doesn't really affect my everyday life, but sometimes when I'm playing a bit of sport it can be a bit of an issue, but I've got away with it quite lucky, to be honest. I do consider myself to be one of the lucky ones.
So in the past year and a half, I've started experiencing tonic-clonic seizures. It's when you lose consciousness in your body, you collapse on the floor and you start shaking violently. I first had one in the summer of 2017, and I was asleep when I had it, and my parents said that they could hear from my room me like grunting. They knew straight away what it was, but they didn't know what to do. Since then, I've had 6, I think. I've like told all my friends what to do if I do have one. For the past 2 or 3, I've actually been awake and it's caused me some injuries. It's just like constant anxiety of not knowing when you're going to have one, even not knowing when you're going to have an absence seizure. Both of them can be extremely dangerous. And if a tonic-clonic seizure lasts more than a minute, you're supposed to call an ambulance. So it's scary to think that in just that space of time, I might have to go to the hospital.
So after I was first diagnosed in September 2012, I felt like I owed the hospital a lot for all the treatment they were giving me, and I decided I wanted to start raising some money for Sheffield Children's Hospital. The best thing I could do is set a target to do with my treatment, so I thought I'll try and raise the equivalent cost of my bone marrow transplant had I not been treated by the NHS. And I later found out that that was £150,000. I think I'm right in saying now that I've raised around £148,500.
On a happy note, there's a great charity called Epilepsy Action, and they are very keen on raising awareness for epilepsy, and I've done fundraising for them. I completed the 3 Peaks challenge all in 10 days and managed to raise £1,400. It was so worth it to get to the top of our last mountain, and we popped a bottle of champagne, and it was so worth it to see all the views and to know that I can actually do something worthwhile.
I was lucky enough to take part in the Rickshaw Challenge for Children in Need with myself and a group of 5 other young people, and it really was fantastic. We cycled over 8 days, and it was actually on the Wednesday of the Rickshaw Challenge. I was asked if I wanted to go into a nearby cafe. It was there that when I walked into this cafe, I saw my bone marrow donor sat in front of me, and that was something that sort of really cut me deep. There's obviously videos of me crying on national television, which is just what every 17-year-old lad wants, but it's an unreal experience, and it's one of those kind of moments where you just don't know what to say. This is someone sort of sat in front of me that has saved my life, and all I could thank you doesn't seem to cut it.
And also recently I've been asked by another charity called Aware Causes. They produce these necklaces, triangles with different colours on, and they wanted me to take some photos of me wearing the necklace and me telling my story so they could put it out to the public to help people understand epilepsy more. I'm just determined to raise the awareness as much as I can.